In the cold silence of space, the council station of Valora Prime floated like a shining jewel. Across the galaxy, alien races gathered here to trade, argue, and share their legends. But that day, one particular story filled the halls with laughter. The story was about humans. They were just myths, one scaled merchant hissed. Primitive creatures who burned themselves out long ago. Another, with 4 glowing eyes, slammed his cup on the table. Legends say they fought gods and won. Absurd. No race could do such a thing. The crowd erupted in mocking cheers. Someone even wore a fake human mask, an ugly piece of rubber with 2 eyes and a small mouth. Everyone laughed. For generations, the story of humanity's sudden disappearance had become a joke. Children whispered it during night cycles. Soldiers mocked it in the barracks. Scholars called it a shared hallucination of a violent age. No one truly believed the legends anymore. But far away, beyond the edge of known space, something ancient stirred. It began with a ripple, an energy pulse so faint that most sensors missed it. But one patrol ship, a small cruiser belonging to the Trelka Empire, caught the signal. "Commander, we're receiving a strange frequency from the dead sector," the sensor officer whispered, staring at the screen. The commander leaned forward. "Dead sector? There's nothing there but dust and forgotten wrecks." "Yes, sir. But the signal is structured. It repeats every 62 seconds. It's old." The crew exchanged uneasy looks. Old signals usually meant abandoned colonies or failed expeditions. But this one was different. The pattern looked a human. The commander frowned. "Record it. Transmit it to High Command. Do not approach." But it was too late. Space around the ship shuddered as if reality itself had been pushed aside. The stars seemed to twist. A dark shape emerged from the void, massive, silent, and terrifying. It wasn't a fleet. It was a single vessel. "Unknown contact," someone shouted. "Size, enormous. Hull composition, unknown. It's not matching any database." The bridge fell silent. The ship drifting toward them had no lights, no broadcast signals, nothing. Yet its presence felt overwhelming, like a predator watching from the shadows. The commander whispered, almost to himself, "It looks human." Panic spread through the crew. No one wanted to believe it, but deep inside, every species remembered the legends, about ships that crossed galaxies alone, about wars that ended overnight, about Earth's wrath. Try to hail them. No answer. Raise shields. Too late. The human ship wasn't attacking. It didn't need to. The moment its systems powered up, every device on the Trelka cruiser went dead. Lights vanished. Engines froze. Even life support failed. It was as if the human vessel had swallowed their technology whole. The last thing the commander saw before darkness consumed the bridge was a faint emblem appearing on their cracked screen, an old Earth insignia. Back on Valora Prime, the signal reached the Galactic Council. For the first time in centuries, no one laughed. "What do you mean, the signal is human?" one ambassador asked, her voice trembling. The technician played the recording. A cold, rhythmic pulse filled the room. The same pulse that ancient archives described during humanity's last transmission before their disappearance. "This can't be," someone muttered. "They were gone. Extinct." But the pulse kept repeating. Over and over. Then came the second message. Short. Simple. In ancient galactic standard. "We are returning." Panic exploded across the station. Governments activated emergency protocols. Fleets mobilized. Old fears, buried under centuries of jokes, came flooding back. For generations, they had mocked humanity. Now, humanity had answered. And somewhere, deep in the darkness, the human warship changed course. It was heading straight toward the galactic core. Every leader, every soldier, every child knew what that meant. Earth was coming back. And the galaxy would never be the same again. The Galactic Council chamber was in chaos. Screens flashed red warnings, ambassadors shouted over each other, and security drones zipped nervously through the air. For centuries, the Council had ruled the stars in comfort, believing themselves untouchable. But now, a single signal from the void had shaken them to their core. "They can't be back," roared Councillor Vreel of the Vornak Dominion. "Humanity vanished thousands of years ago. This must be a trick. Pirates, rebels, something." "No pirate could mimic that signal," replied the Ketheri ambassador, his tentacles curling nervously. "It matches the ancient archives exactly. This is real. And if that ship truly belongs to them..." The room fell silent. Everyone knew what that meant. The legends were terrifying. Humanity had never built vast empires. They didn't need to. One fleet was enough to bring entire civilizations to their knees. They were unpredictable, dangerous, and relentless. And then, one day, they were gone. No explanation. No trace. Just silence. Until now. The council chair, a tall insectoid named Zekthor, slammed his claws against the table. "Enough panic. We will investigate. Mobilize the nearest fleets. Send scouts, not warriors. We will not provoke whatever this is." But far from the council's reach, something far worse was already happening. The Trelka cruiser, the one that first encountered the mysterious ship, was drifting lifelessly through space. A salvage team arrived hours later, expecting to find wreckage. Instead, they found silence. Every system was dead. The crew floated weightless, frozen in their suits. Their eyes were open, but there were no signs of struggle. It was as if something had simply switched them off. The salvage captain shuddered. No burn marks. No hull breaches. "It's like their ship just gave up." And then, deep within the cruiser's black box, they found a single piece of data. A blurry image of a massive ship covered in ancient markings, English letters burned across its dark hull. USS Vigilant. The name meant nothing to most aliens. But to those who studied old war archives, it was a nightmare made real. The Vigilant had been one of Earth's most feared dreadnoughts, an unstoppable vessel rumored to have erased entire fleets during the War of the 13 Empires. And now, it was awake again. Back at the council, this new information sent shockwaves through the room. "Impossible," Zekthor whispered. "That ship was lost before the collapse. It can't have survived this long." But it had. And it was moving, straight toward council space. The news spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Civilian networks broadcast the image of the human ship. Some laughed nervously, calling it a hoax. Others packed their ships and fled core worlds, fearing the return of the apex predators. Old veterans, those who had fought in the dark years, simply went quiet. "They mocked the legend," one old soldier muttered. "They forgot what humans were capable of." Meanwhile, on a distant observation outpost, two young officers stared at their long-range scanners. A single blip appeared at the edge of their screen. "What is that?" one of them asked. The other officer zoomed in, his hands trembling. "It's huge. And fast. Much faster than anything we've seen." Then the outpost's lights flickered. Systems crashed. Alarms blared. The human ship had arrived in their sector. Before the officers could even send a warning, their entire station went dark. The last thing recorded was a single message flooding their comm system. "This is Earth's Vigilant. Stand by." No one understood why humanity had returned. But one thing was clear. This was no accident. This was a declaration. The apex predators of the galaxy were back. And the galaxy had no idea what was coming next. The galaxy was no longer laughing. Within days, the return of the USS Vigilant had spread to every star system. Governments scrambled to prepare, militaries deployed emergency fleets, and smugglers whispered rumors in the dark corners of space stations. The human ship wasn't hiding anymore. It was moving, and nothing could stop it. On the outer rim, at Fort Halion, a massive defensive ring station belonging to the Drevik Alliance, fleets were gathering. Dozens of warships floated in tight formation, their hulls glittering under the cold starlight. Admiral Carell, a veteran Drevik officer with a scar across his scaled face, stood on the command deck and watched the tactical screen. "Status of the blockade," he barked. "All ships in position, Admiral. We've reinforced Sector 3 with heavy cruisers. Shield arrays are fully charged," replied his second officer. Carell nodded grimly. "Good. If the humans think they can just fly through Drevik space, they'll learn we're not afraid of myths." But even as he spoke, a nervous silence filled the room. Everyone had seen the recordings. Everyone had heard the signal. And deep down, no one truly believed they could stop the Vigilant. Moments later, the sensors picked up a ripple. Space itself seemed to distort. A single, enormous contact emerged from faster-than-light travel. "It's here," the sensor officer whispered. The bridge went silent. The USS Vigilant slid out of the void like a shadow given form. It didn't broadcast warnings, didn't activate shields, didn't even slow down. It simply moved, steady, silent, unstoppable. "Lock weapons," Carell shouted. "All ships, prepare to fire on my mark." The fleet unleashed everything they had. Beams of light, kinetic projectiles, plasma bolts, an entire storm of firepower lit up the darkness. The Vigilant disappeared behind the barrage. Explosions flared. Alarms screamed. For a moment, hope flickered on the Admiral's face. Then the light cleared. The Vigilant was still there. Untouched. Every attack had vanished against its invisible defenses, like stones thrown into the ocean. Carell's jaw tightened. "All ships, evasive." Before he could finish, the Vigilant responded. It didn't fire 1,000 weapons. It fired one. A single beam, thin and blinding, cut through space. It passed through the lead cruiser, the second, the third. Ships exploded in a chain reaction, one after another, as if a god had drawn a line of fire across the fleet. In less than 20 seconds, half the Drevik armada was gone. The survivors tried to retreat, but their engines failed. Every system collapsed under a wave of electromagnetic interference so powerful that even the station's life support began to falter. The Vigilant didn't need to chase them. It simply moved forward, cutting through the blockade like a blade through mist. Admiral Carell watched helplessly as his entire defense collapsed around him. This is not a ship," he whispered. "This is vengeance." Across the galaxy, the Battle of Fort Halayan was broadcast live. Billions watched as one of the strongest fleets in the Alliance was obliterated in minutes. Fear spread like wildfire. For centuries, they had mocked the legend of humanity. Now, they watched it unfold before their eyes. In the council chambers, Zek Thor slammed his claws on the table. "They are not here to negotiate. They are demonstrating power. They want us to remember." One ambassador trembled. "What happens when they reach the core?" No one answered. Because everyone already knew. The Vigilant was heading straight for the heart of the galaxy, and nothing, no fleet, no empire, no ancient defense grid, had been able to stop it so far. The return of humanity was no longer just a story. It was a countdown. Panic had become the new language of the galaxy. After the destruction at Fort Halayan, there were no more jokes, no more debates, no more doubts. The Vigilant was real, and it was unstoppable. Entire systems began evacuating. Civilian ships clogged hyperlanes. Markets crashed. Old alliances fractured as fear consumed every council hall and command center. At the galactic core, deep inside the glittering capital world of Valora Prime, emergency meetings stretched through endless night cycles. The council chamber, once proud and loud, now felt like a tomb. Council Chair Zek Thor stood at the center, his normally steady voice trembling. "We've lost 3 fleets. Entire sectors have gone dark. Every attempt to slow the human vessel has failed. It will reach core space in less than 9 cycles." A dozen ambassadors shouted at once. "Evacuate the capital." "No. We must negotiate." "Negotiate with what? A ghost ship? We're not prepared for a full-scale war. Zekthor raised his claw sharply. Enough. We must find out what they want. They haven't sent any diplomatic message, only that signal, we are returning. Someone must talk to them before they destroy us all. That someone was Captain Selix Vren of the Zarvan Union. A seasoned diplomat and former soldier, Selix had studied human history for years. He understood their tactics, their brutality, and their strange, relentless sense of purpose. When the council asked for a volunteer to make first contact, no one stepped forward. So Selix did. I'll go, he said quietly. But if they've truly returned, we might already be too late. 9 cycles later, his sleek diplomatic vessel approached the coordinates where the Vigilant had been tracked. The ship dwarfed his cruiser like a mountain looming over an insect. No lights, no transmissions, just that terrifying, silent shape drifting through space, headed straight toward Valora Prime. Open hailing frequencies, Selix ordered. This is Captain Selix Vren of the Galactic Council. We request communication. We seek peaceful dialogue. Silence. Repeat the message, he said calmly. Nothing. Then, suddenly, the Vigilant systems flickered to life. Massive panels along its hull opened like the wings of some ancient creature. For a heartbeat, Selix thought it was preparing to fire. His crew braced for death. Instead, a transmission arrived. Audio only. The voice was human, cold, steady, ancient. This galaxy forgot us. Static crackled. Then again, clearer this time. We remember everything. Selix's throat went dry. This wasn't the voice of a living person. It sounded like an AI, a war intelligence system, still running after thousands of years. I'm here to represent the Council, Selix said carefully. We wish to understand your intentions. The galaxy has changed. The galaxy changed because we left. Now, we return. Those who mocked will remember. Those who conquered in our absence will answer. The channel went dead. Selix stared at the dark ship through the viewport. He felt something he hadn't felt in decades, true, bone-deep fear. This wasn't a mission of exploration. It was a judgment. Back on Valora Prime, Selix delivered the recording to the Council. Panic erupted again, louder than before. Some demanded surrender. Others prepared for war. Zekthor's voice broke through the noise. We can't fight them. We saw what happened to Halion. If this ship is just the beginning, if more human vessels are out there, then we're facing something far worse than any war in our history. At that moment, long-range scanners picked up new signals. Not one. Not two. Dozens. More ships were waking up. Across forgotten sectors, human dreadnoughts were coming online after thousands of years of silence. The Vigilant wasn't alone. It was the vanguard. The galaxy trembled as the truth spread. The Vigilant was not the only human warship. One by one, across forgotten star systems, ancient vessels stirred from their long slumber. Massive dreadnoughts, cruisers, and carriers, each one a relic from humanity's final war, began to power up. Their engines lit the darkness like awakening giants, their signals echoing through subspace. For centuries, these ships had been dismissed as ghost stories. Now, their return was undeniable. At the Valora Prime Strategic Command, the atmosphere was grim. Commanders from dozens of species stared at holographic star maps, their faces pale as new red icons kept appearing. Human ships, moving steadily toward the core. They're converging, a Trelka officer whispered. Every ship, every single one is heading in the same direction. They're forming a fleet. Admiral Karel's voice growled over the comm. He had survived Fort Halion, one of the few who escaped in a damaged escape pod. His scales were burned, his pride shattered. We tried to stop one ship and failed. What chance do we have against dozens? The council chair, Zekthor, looked at him through the holofeed. Then we must find another way. Open a diplomatic channel. Show them we are not their enemies. Karel's eyes narrowed. Chairman, they didn't fire on us because of war. They fired because they could. You don't negotiate with storms. But even as they argued, the humans were already on the move. A small mining colony on the edge of council space became the next target, not of attack, but of contact. The colony was simple. A few domes, a population of 5,000, mostly workers. When the first human cruiser appeared in orbit, the colony governor thought it was a malfunctioning scanner. Then the sky turned dark. The cruiser blocked out the stars. Governor Turin stood on the landing pad, watching in frozen disbelief as the massive ship descended lower than any sane vessel would dare. Its hull bore faded human markings. No escort ships. No demands. Just silence. Then, a voice boomed across every speaker and frequency in the colony. We built these worlds. You squatted on their ashes. Panic spread through the colony. Alarms blared. Civilians ran for shelters. The governor tried to respond. We mean no harm. This world was abandoned. We colonized it centuries ago. Please, identify yourselves. The voice cut him off. You forgot who we were. You laughed at our memory. But our worlds remember. Our ships remember. And now, so will you. Without firing a single shot, the cruiser's systems reached out. Every piece of technology in the colony went offline in an instant. Lights vanished. Machinery stopped. Even medical systems died. The humans didn't destroy the colony, they froze it, showing absolute dominance. The message was clear, they were not here to negotiate. They were here to reclaim. Back at the council, this new incident sent shockwaves through every government. Evacuations accelerated. Border fleets withdrew toward the core. The panic was no longer contained, it had become chaos. Zekthor slammed his claw on the table. They are systematically reminding us of their power. First the fleets, then the colonies. What happens when they reach the capital? Captain Selix, the diplomat who had spoken with the Vigilant, stepped forward. His voice was low, but steady. This isn't random. They're following a plan, step by step. First, show their strength. Second, break our defenses. Third, take back what was once theirs. Zekthor stared at the growing cluster of red icons on the map. And the fourth step? Selix hesitated. His eyes were fixed on the largest signal, Vigilant, moving relentlessly toward the heart of galactic civilization. They make us remember why the galaxy once feared humans, he whispered. And far away, in the darkness, the human fleet accelerated. For the first time in millennia, Earth was on the march again. The galaxy was now living on borrowed time. Every passing cycle brought the human fleet closer to the core. Civilizations that had once mocked the legends now broadcast desperate pleas for help. Border worlds were abandoned, military forces were scattered, and entire populations fled toward the inner systems. Panic had turned into pure, unshakable fear. Velora Prime, the shining capital of the Galactic Council, was no longer a symbol of power. It was a fortress under siege by a threat no one could stop. In the High Command Chamber, holograms flickered over a massive star map. Red icons, representing human warships, moved like a tide. Each one was terrifying on its own. Together, they formed a formation that no alien strategist could fully comprehend. It wasn't chaotic. It was precise, surgical, and unstoppable. Zekthor stood before the council, his usual commanding tone replaced by exhaustion. The human fleet will enter core space in less than 3 cycles. All diplomatic attempts have failed. Every fleet engagement has ended in disaster. We are out of time. Ambassadors shouted, their voices filled with panic. Evacuate the capital. They'll destroy everything. We must surrender. Send them everything they ask for. They haven't asked for anything. That last sentence hung in the air like a blade. The humans had made no demands, no ultimatums, no threats. They simply advanced. Meanwhile, on the outer edge of the core, Admiral Carell had gathered what remained of the Council's fleets. Dozens of battered ships floated in tense silence. They were the last line of defense, a patchwork force of different species, desperate but determined. "This is it," Carell growled over the comm. "We hold this line, or the core falls. We don't retreat. Not this time." His officers exchanged uneasy glances. Everyone remembered Fort Halion. Everyone knew what the Vigilant alone had done. And now there were more of them. Moments later, the scanners lit up. The human fleet had arrived. The Vigilant led the formation like a silent king. Behind it, dreadnoughts and cruisers moved with frightening discipline. They didn't spread out. They didn't hesitate. They cut straight through the void like a spear aimed at the heart of the galaxy. "All ships, attack pattern Gamma," Carell commanded. "Fire at will." The defenders unleashed everything they had. Plasma bolts, hypermissiles, energy beams. All of it poured toward the human fleet in a storm of light. The void exploded with color. When the light cleared, the human ships were still there. Their defenses absorbed the entire assault effortlessly. Then, without warning, the Vigilant's main cannons activated. A single volley tore through the Council's front line. Entire battleships vanished in seconds. Carell clenched his fists. "Keep firing. Don't let them through." But the truth was brutal. It didn't matter how hard they fought. The human fleet advanced like a tidal wave, pushing through every line without slowing down. The defenders broke formation. Panic swept through the fleet as ships scattered, trying to escape the inevitable. Carell's flagship shook violently as a shockwave from a destroyed ally slammed into it. Sparks flew across the bridge. Officers screamed. "Admiral, we can't hold them." Carell stared at the tactical screen. One red icon, the Vigilant, was moving directly toward his ship. For a moment, he thought of retreat. But then his expression hardened. "Then we die standing," he muttered. He ordered a direct charge. His flagship roared forward, engines burning at maximum. For a few brief seconds, the ship cut through the chaos like a blade. Carell aimed straight at the Vigilant, intending to ram it head-on. But before impact, the Vigilant simply shifted course. A wave of invisible force, some ancient human defense field, hit Carell's ship like a hammer. The entire vessel was crushed in seconds. The last thing Carell saw was the Vigilant sliding past, calm and unstoppable. Back on Valora Prime, the news spread like fire. The last defense line had fallen. The human fleet was now heading directly for the capital. Billions stared at the sky, waiting. Some prayed. Some hid. Others simply watched in silence, realizing that the legends they had mocked for generations were marching toward their doorstep. Humanity was not here to negotiate. They were here to finish what history had forgotten. The core of the galaxy shook under a terror it had never known. Valora Prime sky was filled with human warships, dreadnoughts, cruisers, and frigates, moving with perfect synchronization. The Council's fleets, scattered and desperate, tried to form a defense line, but every attempt crumbled within seconds. The humans didn't just destroy ships, they neutralized entire sectors, leaving nothing but silence behind them. Inside the Council chamber, panic had become a constant. Holographic displays showed the unstoppable advance of the Vigilant and its fleet. Billions across the core were watching in fear. "Tell me again why we thought we could resist them," one ambassador hissed, his multiple eyes darting nervously. Zekthor's voice was grave. "Because we always believed the legends were dead. We were wrong. Humanity never disappears. They wait. They plan. And now," his claw swept across the map. "Now they are here." Amid the chaos, a small comm signal broke through. It was from Captain Selix Vren, the diplomat who had first contacted the Vigilant. His voice trembled but remained firm. "They're not attacking indiscriminately," he reported. "They're targeting military centers first, striking with precision. But their ultimate goal, I believe it's the core itself. The heart of our power." Zekthor's claws tightened. "Then we do the only thing left. We survive. Evacuate civilians, consolidate remaining fleets, and pray there's some weakness we can exploit. But even as the council moved, the humans pressed on. From orbit, the Vigilant and its fleet descended upon the capital. Every defense turret, every shield array, every fleet engagement proved useless. Ships disintegrated under blasts they could not predict. Energy waves paralyzed machines. Hulls melted before impact. It was precision destruction, not chaos, a calculated message. On the surface, citizens watched the sky darken as massive human warships blocked out the sun. Entire sectors of Valora Prime went offline as communication satellites and orbital defenses failed. People fled, but nowhere was safe. Zekthor and the council huddled in the deepest secure chamber. The largest map in the room displayed the flow of human ships like rivers of steel converging on the capital. They mocked humanity, Zekthor whispered. We all did. We laughed at the stories. And now, a sudden alert sounded. The human fleet had reached orbit. The Vigilant hovered above the planet, silent. A single projection appeared in the skies above the city, a holographic message, clear and chilling in the language of the ancient archives. You forgot us. You will remember. The galaxy watched in stunned silence. And then, the first strike began. No bombardment. No warning salvo. Just a sweep of advanced weaponry that disabled the city's defenses instantly. Energy pulses rippled through the planet's crust, targeting command centers, military bases, and vital infrastructure. Within minutes, Valora Prime, the core of galactic civilization, was crippled. Every species realized the truth. The humans hadn't come to negotiate. They hadn't come to threaten. They had come to reclaim, to punish, and to remind the galaxy why humanity had once been feared above all. From the shadows of the ruined council chamber, Zekthor's voice echoed, trembling but resolute. They mocked the legend of humanity, and now they are learning the cost of forgetting it. Above them, the Vigilant loomed, silent and unyielding, as more human ships poured into the core. The galaxy would never be the same again. Humanity had returned. And the age of reckoning had begun.